After defeating the vile Long Yun, we still haven't annexed the Shinan Reconstruction Authority, but I'm pretty sure we will eventually. That being said, we're still trying to make our country a better place by modernizing one of the pillars. Made in China, complete. We're going to continue with some military stuff, I think. Get monthly modernization as well. We can definitely commission more geological surveys. Divert even more. Every decision in here that we can take, we will take. Once again, another 0.5% increase. We're slowly building it up. Oh, actually, pay 4 billion and get 9 billion. Very much worth it. It's still gonna take us a while, but we've got time. As Gao Zhongwu walked in the staff office, he spotted several of their best experts over their last military exercise on a chalkboard. Gao waved his hand to signal Chief of Staff Bao Wenyue, who turned to salute him to continue on with his presentation. This exercise is theatrical, in the sense that if the blue team representing our national army opens with a series of coordinated attacks and rapid advancements, we can confidently assume a successful breach from the Yantai to the Haihe lines. Any following operation, however, would be exceedingly difficult. The red team, representing the IGA, can bring to bear superior air and naval support. Suicidal counterattacks are to be expected even if we could possess superiority in numbers and technology. Any relief units and reinforcements will be bogged down along the Yangtai line. Essentially, what do we go for? Look forward or stay with the traditions? And I feel like we'll pioneer cutting-edge military theory unique to China. The decision may greatly enhance our armed forces, yet only time can tell whether our endeavors will succeed. That is what I'm going to go for. I think I'm going to go out with the old as well. It will slightly increase suspicion the Japanese have for us, but that's okay. We're at a good level at the moment anyway. And of course, expand state-owned industries. All of these decisions, as far as I can tell, are now worth it. Even the worst one, we only lose 50 million. This one, we guarantee turn a profit in GDP. This one, not so much, but that's because it's not going to improve our GDP. Rather, it's going to improve our societal stuff. Or our what are they called? Yeah, societal development, which we desperately need. Emphasizing modern war and experimental warfare strategies always begins in the combat simulation room. Whether their doctrine is realistic or not, in situations where field testing is not an option, it can often be brought through the combat simulation room for preliminary testing, according to the outcomes, and given doctrine can be re-evaluated and tweaked, improving our overall training efficiency. Alright, we're trying to improve ourselves bit by bit. And of course, we're going to go for the independent command structure. I feel like that's better for the long term. Alright, that'll do. Luo Li finished off a draft to reform the Ministry of National Defense's command structure. According to his plans, the new system would give more power to the Ministry of National Defense and the President himself. It was more independent from the Japanese. They may have set restrictions on us, but there will always be a way out. This reform can allow additional strength to be built up under Japanese supervision, and if the Japanese find out, well, we have our ways and means. Having come so far, how could we not have a few hundred hired guards before joining the reorganized national government? Sometimes Luo Li had dreams of the old days where he was still a well-educated graduate of the Wampao 4th class, a soldier in the Northern Expedition. But looking at his splendid office, it was hard to tell which one was really Li's dream. Sometimes the younger officers of the ministry would ask Li who they were fighting for, the Japanese or their own people. Whenever Li was asked such a question, he could only plaster a fake smile, telling them that they're to fight for the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. Yet such an answer can only fool the youngsters, not Li himself. Perhaps one day, Li can fight for China again, and for China alone. Wish you all the best in applying what you've learned in the academy to serve the military, contributing your efforts to the modernization of the Republic's armed forces. With those words, Ren Yuandao finished delivering his graduation speech, and Fang Zheng officially graduated from the Central Military Academy. He stood there, clutching his certificate tightly, tears streaming down his face. Since the day he decided to apply to the military academy, Fang Zheng had imagined the moment countless times, spending countless sleepless nights thinking about it. Now, having reached this milestone, he was finally a second lieutenant. He would soon step into the army and contribute to his war-torn country with his own skills. But reality did not meet his expectations. Once he joined the military, he encountered unexpected difficulties. Initially, his new superior had been very courteous upon seeing his academic credentials, offering him the best treatment and even hosting a banquet in his honor. However, within just a few days, the situation took a drastic turn. Fang Zheng's family was just a struggling middle management household in Nanjing. Although they are far better off than most of the starving people outside, they lacked influential connections. Fang had entered the academy purely on academic achievements. True to his name, upright and direct, Fang Zheng was straightforward and avoided ingratiating himself with any of the wealthy and influential during his time at the academy. As a result, he graduated without any significant background. Consequently, his superior grew cold and indifferent, no longer displaying the warmth of those early days. Without his support, Fang Zheng found it difficult to get along with his peers. What's the use of attending the Central Military Academy with no power or influence? Without connections, no one valued his opinions, and without experience, anyone could undermine him. Such is reality, indeed. I feel like that's the case all the time, not just the military. Fang Zheng felt his passion had nearly been extinguished while he was stuck in this lifeless army. Day and night he was burrowed under endless paperwork with no chance to use things he had learned at the officer school. Sometimes he couldn't tell, was he a second lieutenant or a mere office clerk? But things seemed to be taking a turn for the better. As Fang buried himself in the never-ending paperwork, his old high school mentor, Zhao Sihai, suddenly contacted him. Fang had always respected Zhao, who had encouraged him to apply to the military school, and, using his own experience as a cadet at the North China Military Academy, had assured Fang's parents. After graduating from the North China Military Academy, Zhao had gone to study in Japan, and they hadn't seen each other for several years. Reuniting with the old friend naturally brought up many things to talk about. Zhao suggested they go to the best restaurant in the area to drink and catch up. Fang also had much to say. His studies and training at the military academy, his desire to serve his country, and the unfair treatments he had received in the army, all of which he was eager to share with his mentor. Zhao sympathized with Fang and slammed his cup to the table, saying, "These central faction bastards, they just hold their own positions, killing time." Central faction? What does he mean by that? But it didn't matter much. Zhao had studied in Japan for many years and must have a lot of experience. Surely he could help. After several rounds of drinks, Zhao told Fang about a local officers' club. He assured Fang that if he joined, those high-ranking comrades in the club would not ignore his situation. Fang was excited, but then Zhao's next words caught him off guard. You know what? Continued cooperation with Japan is the ultimate path to strengthening the Republic's fences. He began to share the teachings he had received in Japan, talking about Pan-Asian Military Alliance, the National Army's cooperation with the Imperial Army, and how the Japanese military was powerful enough to rival Germany and the United States. All of this left Fang Zheng in a state of shock. The mentor before him now seemed increasingly alien, as though the person he once discussed the future of the Republic with him had died on his way to Japan. Finally, Zhao boasted about being received by HOI4, a member of the Supreme Military Advisory Group. Damn. Okay, looks like we'll be at odds with that guy. Even after the drinking game ended that day, Fang Zheng didn't agree to join the club, and his seniors seemed to perceive his opinions, since Zhao Xinai didn't bother looking for him. Fang Zheng went back to his desk, mechanically engaging in busy work, waiting uselessly until the day his enthusiasm was completely worn down. One night there was another new recruit in his apartment, Lin Zheng. He and Fang Zheng were different. He had not graduated from military school, but actually served in the army before being promoted here. Fang admired him deeply, as a military mind that went beyond theory and had long gained experience in the army. No one in their department would crowd around him, or at least wouldn't dare glance at his face directly. Unexpectedly, Lin Zheng stayed a while in their department, actually growing close to Fang Zheng. The two often spoke together. In time, Fang's gnawing discontent came up in the conversation. Lin smiled and suddenly asked Fang to join a club, startling him. Fang Zheng hesitated to get up at first, muttering and dissimulating about his rejection. Seeing this, Lin grinned and said, "What? Has someone asked you to join a club already?" Silent, Fang Zheng nodded. "Were you invited by a guy from the North China Military School?" Fang couldn't help but stare. Officer clubs were not uncommon. There were quite a few. So how could he have known? At Fang's expression, realizing his guess was right, Lin clapped him on the shoulders. "Looks like I was right, so feel relieved. Our club is hardly like theirs." He continued to explain their club's purpose, the meaning of autonomy through force, or resisting the elites, clearing the rot, and all things in the world will strengthen the army. Lin smiled at Fang Zheng's startled expression. He was a second lieutenant, but hadn't heard of any of this? Hearing his explanation, Fang grew passionate about ideas he had not dreamt of since graduating military school. Lin Zheng became serious again and explained that their club was unlike that of the seniors, that it was not beloved by all, and particularly by the Japanese advisors. They hated it with a burning passion, fighting for the very last hope. That does sound more like my kind of speed. I'm gonna go for nation above all. Military political unification? Gao asked. Yes, Mr. President. Beyond posters and slogans, political propaganda has few concrete uses. Many fewer than, say, a machine gun. Exacerbated. Gao laughed dryly and shook his head. I don't see it that way. The reason for victory in the North expedition was that our national army possessed a robust and wide-reaching political propaganda system alongside a huge amount of motivational political cadres. These political workers were mostly communists back then, spinning lies to corrupt the people, were they not? Gao shrugged. Maybe so, but you have to admit, such corruption undeniably aided with the war's victory. Such corruption created, one after another, devoted soldiers, strong and willing and strong of spirit and will. Take a look at the puppet Sheng's army too, faithless, corrupted, bullying selfish bastards who broke and ran in the face of the Japanese. Is the contrast not obvious enough to you? Well, we could select a few politically conscious officers for the position. Yeah, let's do just that. Nation above all, indeed. There is no other thing we can choose. There's only really one path forward for us. On a morning of boundless blue skies, soldiers who had completed their routine physical training intended to rest for a while. When they suddenly received a notice of a high-ranking official coming to give a lecture, they felt a bit puzzled. Shortly after, a youthful officer strode in elegantly and saluted them from the stage. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hu, and you can call me Staff Officer Hu. After the introduction, the soldiers welcomed him with applause. Just then, he saw a strange figure enter the room. Helpful Japanese advisor. As the applause subsided, Staff Officer Hu began his speech. At the beginning of the century, the concept of a Chinese nation was first proposed, subsequently incorporated by our founding fathers into the three principles of the peoples as nationalism, becoming one of the lasting goals and endeavors of our Kuomintang. Today, I'd like to talk to you about these topics. One of these fundamental principles of the Republic of China is the 5 races under one union, meaning the interests of all ethnic groups are the interests of the Chinese nation and, more importantly, the Republic of China, guided by the policy of 5 modernizations. The Chinese nation has achieved remarkable accomplishments in various fields. As industry surges, so does our production, something unimaginable decades ago. The most crucial aspect of modernization is military modernization, because the military serves a solid barrier, safeguarding our national interests. The foolish man be not guilty, but for his envy of the jewel. Time passed quickly as the speech wound down, and Staff Officer Hu noticed the grim expression of the Japanese advisor's face. Perhaps he would soon report to his officers, but it didn't matter. Staff Officer Hu only wanted to make one thing clear to everyone present. Without China benefiting, Pan-Asianism means nothing. Exactly. We got better military professionalism and agricultural methods. Our poverty rate's still disgusting. Despite all those focuses helping me improve the rate of it. Oh yeah, and invest in private businesses again, and 180 days we'll have at least 1 billion, maybe 2 or even 3 billion more GDP. Comrade Dong Shuguang, why do you want to join the National Army of the Republic of China? The question puzzled him, and he gingerly spoke. To save China? They continued. Are you aware of what the future may hold for you? He had a decent answer. At this moment in time, yes. I will do my utmost to maintain my awareness going forth. The questions they asked were completely irrelevant to soldiery, ones much more philosophical in nature, at least according to Dong's reckoning. Well, he didn't understand any deep philosophy, so he had no choice but to answer completely honestly for each one. As each question was asked and subsequently answered, the 3 officers' faces turned more and more encouraging. The last question. If you were ordered to die, would you follow that order? I personally don't want to die, but if it brightened China's future, I would give everything I have. All three officers broke into a warm smile. Welcome to the National Army. Alright, I think we are stuck for the time being in the military branch. We will go back towards technology. The final step towards self-reliance already. Okay. Well, regardless, we're close to being able to press the button to boost up our education a little bit more. What do we want? Political power? I think I still kind of want political power gain, because it's atrocious currently. We need a lot of it. Before the 5 modernizations began, the most advanced electronic equipment China boasted was its small network of radar stations installed by the Japanese army between 48 and 53. The stations were intended to provide an early warning for Japan, rather than any actual protection for China. These installations weren't sufficient to cover all of China when they were built, and in the decades since then, they had become outdated and decrepit. China needs a modern air defense system. Upgrading our network is absolutely vital to this. Even the Japanese agree that modernizing China's radar systems will increase the protection of both nations. Let's go. Oh, actually, we can continue with our education reforms. I mean, why not, right? I want to finish that up as well now that we have access to this. And increase our self-sufficiency and innovation. Peace returns to Shinan finally. 2 years have passed since the bloody campaign that brought Long Yun and his insurrection to a fiery end, and after countless days spent putting out the fires he had left behind, it seems that smoke has finally cleared, and we will gain the Shinan lands. Look at that. They're ready for you, Mr. President. Gao Zhongwu thought little of the ceremonies inherent with the general operations of the Republic. It seemed as though he was sent to a party of some kind every time the government so much as sneezed as of late. Not that such was a terrible thing, of course. If anyone had any reason to celebrate, there would be no reason not to, especially judging from the event in question. Walking onto the stage, Gao marched towards the microphone set in the center of the platform and pulled his part notes, part script from his pocket. Good evening, everybody. I would like to begin tonight's festivities with an acknowledgement to the reason we find ourselves gathered here. To bid thanks to a close friend of mine, the architect of the governing powers behind the Southwest, Zhao Longxiang. With his efforts, China finds itself a step closer to leading the East Asian nations and our Japanese brethren. Another round of applause, though a degree tenser washed over the room. We are one step closer to our full and complete independence. I hope my visit does not come at an inconvenient time, Mr. President. Zhang Renli flashed a smile as he slithered his way into the president's office. Zhang's arrival had, of course, come at the worst possible moment. The month's fiscal reports had finally made their way to Gao's desk. They merely confirmed his reservations about attempting to revive China's derelict industries. Of course not, my friends. Take a seat. He already knew that Zhang was here to do. The pro-Japanese faction's figurehead wanted his victory lap. You know, my heart breaks hearing of all the issues you've been running into lately. Truly, it does. Surely you realize this bottleneck will not be easy to overcome on your own. Have I not explained countless times that we cannot reach our full potential so long as we refuse to accept help from our allies? Yes, my friend, you have. I understand that Japan has many resources at their disposal, but what? You wish to demonstrate what China is capable of doing on its own? Well, I suppose you have accomplished that in a sense. You have proven how little progress can be made in the absence of a true sense of Asian solidarity. Take a look at Manchuria, for instance. What of it? Well, the difference between us is night and day. They have fully embraced Pan-Asian ideals and were rewarded with prosperity beyond their wildest dreams. I had countless success stories from my brother and asked why do we not take the same approach here. Gao did not have an answer, or at least none that would satisfy the reptile sitting across from him. In truth, it was the Japanese, along with men like Zhang, that held China back. There's only so much you can do underneath a boot. GDP growth and improvement of our literacy rate and poverty rate. We desperately need that. We're still up at 100% poverty rate. In a dark alleyway of Wuhan, a woman reached out for the matches of our nightstand. Lighting the candle and throwing away the burnt matches, the room was lit with a warm orange light. The room smelled of wood and dumplings. In the corner of the apartment, a wood-burning stove kept her warm and fended off the winds of a winter evening. She pulled out her book, The Adapted Writings of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. The government had been promoting the memoirs as a tool of propaganda and to encourage literacy. Now, to read meant to hear the words of the great forerunner of Chinese republicanism. not just to read signs of sappy romances. Currently, she was reading the annotated version of Sun Yat-sen's comments on Pan-Asianism. His words, 40 years old, still rang true. A particular line struck her. The Kuomintang doctrine of nationalism has two implications. The first is the emancipation of the Chinese people, and the second is the equality of all races within China. Something stirred within her. She wasn't sure how to explain it. A passion for one's nation, an excitement for something great among her people. Never had she felt something like this before. Certainly not before she had learned to read. Pride for what China had gone through and was yet to achieve rushed through her. For a fleeting moment, she definitely knew China will prevail. GDP growth, political power gain, stability, yes. Our army is still completely decrepit, god damn. Increase military modernization by 4%? Yes, please. Let's get an armor train as well, I feel like we'll probably need it. Mori Takumi was doing his homework when the postman drove by. No matter how broken Japan was, at least the mail came every day. Hearing the mail drop through the silt on the door, he got excited. Maybe some of his college applications had finally come. Sorting through the mail by state-owned corporations and nationalistic propaganda, 4 were returned college applications, holding letters the key to his freedom. He opened first for Keio University. It might not have been his first choice, but it was located in a big city, and no doubt a good pick. Moro was only a little disappointed to find out he had not been accepted. Opening the other 2, he was once again disappointed to find out he was rejected again. The last letter left open was from the University of Nanjing. He had read in the news how well the Chinese education system was booming. Reports made it seem like the Japanese were a bit jealous of the new Chinese universities. Mori had decided to apply to the University of Nanjing, being the most prestigious of the universities in China. He did not expect to get in. Surely they were only letting in Chinese who were going above and beyond. To his surprise, he had opened the letter to find that he was going to Nanjing. At least he knew this was going to be an adventure. If not, then a good education. Nice. This education will actually be fully modernized. We still have to go through a couple of tiers. Same with the innovation, but, you know, we're getting there pretty much everywhere. And we get better research facilities. They're still outdated, but, I mean, come on. It's great. We're finally more or less caught up on our infantry tech, surprisingly enough. Alright, let's do some support technology, I guess. I didn't even check this, but look, research speed is in the positive for once, instead of minus 50%. And we've modernized our education. Good. Now let's get into the technological branch, eh? Or we can improve our militarization. Of course. We're now at level 2. Still don't have enough hospitals. What the hell, man? How many hospitals can one nation have? Oh, and I believe Russia's finally going to war with each other again. Get some more innovation. Both our education and innovation is both ready. Well, almost ready to bump up with a tier. I'm also going to attempt researching helicopters. Get maybe a few elite helicopter divisions out. That would be lovely. There we go. Well, we're at 99.5. What the hell, man? 3 weeks ago, the warehouse of Baoding Incorporated was raided by a squad of Kempei Tai looking for contraband. While they found nothing, the warehouse staff was almost caught off guard and evacuated the lab and staff with only hours to spare. We got lucky, but it is clear information is leaking. Must make sure that we improve our encryption methods before our luck runs out. China has no official encrypting procedures. The information security consisted of trusting those with classified information to not talk about it. The process of rewiring our phone and telegraph lines to combat wiretapping and other forms of espionage will be time-consuming, but if we ever want to prevent the Japanese from knowing the contents of every message sent within our government, it is a process we must undertake. To provide an extra layer of security to our communications, several newspaper boards and math puzzles were designers and secretly hired to help develop the code language. Keep it hidden, keep it safe. We're still not quite ready for our next sleep, sadly. Again, 98.5. What the hell, man? That pisses me off. There we go. Bump education up 1 tier. We're 1 away from the end. And we're more or less 1 away from the end for the innovations as well. That's why I'm dumping everything I can into militarization. Oh, and basic literacy is turned into primary schooling. Poverty rate exchange decreases as well. Administration efficiency better. Increase self-sufficiency. Yes, please. This doesn't matter as much. It's just technology. Research. As the competition between Chinese and Japanese products begin to grow with each day, our manufacturing sector is taking every step possible to maximize efficiency. The workers live in company houses, they listen to company radios, eat company meals. We have become capitalism. All to destroy Japan. And a new crisis will be unlocked. Dozens of pages of work, the kind of thing that lawyers dreamt of. Over 76 pages where was every single wrong that anyone with a remote relation to the Zaibatsu committed, and future plans to continue these wrongs. They start quite simple. Businessmen buying out factories for cheaper than they were worth, with implication of threats. The actions quickly ramped up, ranging from activity encouraging opium use to increased reliance on the Japanese to bribing or threatening. Damn, okay. Massive corruption scandal. Now we'll have to deal with that. And I think we will definitely smoke out the rats. I realized in my stupor that I had a couple of options on how to deal with this. I could turn it back into the business I took it from, forget it all happened, or try my best and live my life in eternal questioning, asking for what would happen if I had turned it in. Or I realized I could take it to my superior or supervisor and see what came of this pile of shit. Still, I was speechless when I presented the paper. Eventually, I wriggled the words out of my mouth, and in that moment I remembered the particular thought I had. I found it darkly humorous that paper was our invention, yet the ink on the paper was of a thoroughly Japanese species. My supervisor did not share the same giggling sentiment. Alright. Damn it, the North China faction wins? I hate that. No, our GDP decreases, our interest increases. A decision will be made. We will, of course, go after the Japanese. The papers have been leaked. I probably don't need to tell you what is in those papers. I will though, just so you can get it all down. All of those rumors about the Zaibatsu mistreatment of workers, about gigantic corporate consolidations across the entire sphere, about entire towns being whisked off the map, being put in some faraway labor camp. They were all true, every single one. We had documents for each crime. Murder, fraud, assault, manslaughter, embezzlement. We had landed on the motherload of reports. You know, you gotta understand, when you're looking at the media, the newspapers, hell, the radio, that we were trying our best. All these Western standards of a press telling the honest truth, nothing but the truth, all of that is bullshit. There was no truth. China was bursting with stories, not the truth. Gao Zhongwu was the devil, he was the angel, the Japanese, the traitors, Jesus. So when our doorstep rolls up with papers, with no real authentication, no evidence for their claims, besides a few dusty papers dating from a decade ago, of course we're gonna print the damn papers. Jesus, you think your average guy is gonna buy a story about how Wang up north is opening a new shop? No, he's gonna buy the story that's screaming about how the Hanjian are destroying the country, goddammit. Alright, we're fucked. Wait, a new crisis? On top of the old one? Oh, no, it's the same one, okay. We are definitely in a world of hurt. I think with that is pretty much all the time I have left for today. We will deal with this whole, how do you call it? Political oopsie. In the next episode, we will most likely destroy the Japanese, kick them out, become full-on China. There's no need to trust the Zaibatsu. Why would we ever do that? But yeah, that'll be for next time. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Hopefully you have a nice day. Bye-bye.